Some things have become very common to us, those of us that live in a small town in the recent past. One of these things that is so common is watching a town die, watching shops close, houses sell, and watching a culture die. Today, I'm going to ask you, as a grantor, to help save the culture of my hometown of Oakland, Nebraska. I am not asking simply for myself, but on behalf of the Swedish Heritage Museum. First, we'll look into what the problem is, what the situation is. Then we will look into what the plan is to save this particular community. And finally, how the funds would be allocated to help this city live. First, let's look into what the problem is. According to an article done by the Housing Assistance Council in December of 2011, between the years of 2010 and 2012, small towns in the Midwest have seen a decrease in population. While small towns in north or southern and western states have actually seen a 21.3% increase in size, those in the Midwest have sadly seen a decrease of 1.2% population in the last year. For those of us that have grown up in a small town, this is extremely disheartening to see that small towns are dying all over the Midwest, and there's nothing that can be done. So I looked a little bit more deeply and found that in my hometown of Burghardt, between the years of 2010 and 2012, there's been a 2.9% loss in population. This is much larger than the 1.2% decrease that is being seen on a Midwestern scale. So, considering that my hometown of Oakland is the Swedish capital of Nebraska, with every population loss, a little bit more of that culture is lost. So, with your help, the Swedish culture of Oakland may be preserved through and passed on through the preservation of the Swedish Heritage Museum, located just off Highway 30 in this town with such strong cultural ties to the past and their Swedish heritage. But with every passing year, a little bit more of that culture is lost. An example of this is a Swedish immigrant that used to dress up in all of the Swedish garb. She used to teach Swedish to the students that came to visit, to anyone that came to visit. And she passed away recently, and with her death, the museum has seen a major loss in population, or in popularity. The location being just down the street from the school means that it's an optimal place for tours, and it is the main tourist attraction year-round in my city, in my town, except in June when we have the Swedish Festival. Since the museum opened in 1989, we don't want to be the generation that loses it now. So, on behalf of the Swedish Heritage Museum, let's look into the plans that they have set aside, hoping that maybe they'll get the chance to enact them with a little bit of funding from you. So, let's move on and see what just happened. So, in the recent windstorm that happened in February, a dollar horse that has been standing tall in front of the museum since I was a child has fallen down. The wood had completely rotted out, and just a little bit of wind and it was over. They would like to use some of the funds to sponsor building a new dollar horse for the museum. Also, staffing has become an issue as more and more Swedish immigrants and those that know their heritage well have died off in the community. One woman, her name was Mrs. Rogers, and she was the 4th grade teacher when I was in school. She was the one responsible for helping carry on the Swedish culture. She taught Swedish dancing. She ran the Swedish Santa Lucia festival and taught flute playing, not flute, but like recorder, Swedish flute playing to the students. With her retirement this past couple of 2 years ago now, there's become a major debt. We're trying to find a way to keep her around so that we'll still have Swedish dancing at our festival, because without it, it's just not the same. Then, another thing that they really would like to get is a kiosk to archive all the items that have been donated to the facility. And since so many things have been donated, it would be great to just be able to type in the family name and find what was donated so that they can locate it in the museum and be like, hey, look, I donated this. So they want to make a kiosk or get a kiosk. Also, they would like to get an informational sign to hang on the front of the building. With staffing being such a problem, they're generally only open by appointment, but if they could gain some popularity, they would be willing to reopen on certain weekends of the month. This sign would have the number for Julie Nelson, who is one of the people who is trying to get this funding, and her number would be up there along with hours when they can just drop in, and that way people would be able to set up appointments to come in and see the museum. But since driving by and setting up a tour would be a little bit difficult, they would also like to set up a website so that people can apply in advance for tours. And this website would have to be set up by someone in the community, so we would need to be able to fund them, and that funding would have to come from this grant most likely because the Swedish Heritage Museum is nonprofit. They can't very well afford to do it themselves. The Swedish Heritage Museum is a very good project to fund because the building is already there. The structure's already there. All that we're asking is for a little bit of money to continue to preserve the culture that's already there and keep the museum running. Now that we've looked into what the plan is for this money, let's find out how precisely the funds would be allocated. First, let's see, Mrs. Rogers, the person that we're hoping to get to teach the children how to do the dancing in Santa Lucia Festival and play the flute. We were thinking that we could just fund her right up 2 months before the Swedish Festival, so that'd be April and May for 3 days a week, and then for the 2 days of the Swedish Festival. And altogether, if we paid her a fair wage of $25 a day and paid her, that would come out to $650 total for the entire year. We would also like to get that kiosk. The kiosk, when looked up, you can see that a stand will cost about $63, $62.92 being the price that I found, and that is for a tablet to set on. And if we got the tablet, then that would be another $300. And then for the sign, so that we can actually get the business necessary to keep the building running, we would need $300 to get a long-lasting ultralight sign so that people know when they can come in. The website would have to be done by a local, but we wouldn't want them to feel like they had lost out on the deal. We want to be able to pay them for their time. So that would be $100 there that we're hoping to pay them for it. And finally, to get the dollar works placed, because it is such a big attraction. That would be probably about $150 for some oak wood. We'd want oak because we want it to be durable so this doesn't happen again. And finally, $30 for paint. Dollar horses are very colorful creatures, so we would need more than one color, and $30 worth of paint would buy 1 gallon. So all total, that comes out to $1,592.92. But since that might be a little bit on the low side, we're asking for $1,600. Today, I have told you about the Swedish Heritage Museum and how you as a grantor can help save the city of Oakland. First, we looked into the situation and saw that small towns all over the Midwest are dying. Then we looked into how the Swedish Heritage Museum proposes to save the city of Oakland by keeping the museum alive. And finally, we looked into how exactly the funds would be allocated so that all of the things that are necessary to keep the museum running, to keep the culture alive, would be able to be funded. So you as a grantor are faced with an option. You can help us to save our town, or you can choose that this is not the thing for you. But really, we hope that you make the decision that will help keep the culture, the Swedish culture of this capital of Nebraska, alive.